to be right here at the very top. And for the very first game of this series, it appears that Ryvius has queued up the Paladin straight away.
Oh yes, we love to see it. This Paladin deck is unpopular or unfashionable, I will say, for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's Paladin, a very, very underrepresented class at the moment. And the few people that are playing Paladin are playing the Librum Paladin with both the broomsticks and the pen flingers, as well as a bunch of card draw. Whereas Ryvius has the pure version of the deck with all the buffs thrown in there. Blessing of Kings, Blessing of Authority, as you see there. But I think, thankfully for him, both versions of the deck seem to function very well against Demon Hunter.
That's right. If you can stick even just one of these huge minions, and there's tons of taunt in the deck as well for Ryvius, that means that Demon Hunter most of the time has to sink a lot of their resources just to clear the path to the face. The one card that the Paladin needs to be very afraid of is Kayn, I would say.
Yeah, that can be a big one. Thankfully for the Paladin, though, if you're throwing down Librum of Hope, you're also healing for a whole bunch as well as putting down a Taunt. And I think for Ryvius on the Paladin, it's not even so much the damage that you're afraid of. It's the fact that you're just ahead on board most of the time. That's the real benefit of Paladin. It's really difficult for Demon Hunter to effectively clear off all these minions.
You can say that, but I think that Paladin does need to have a pretty specific opening draw to be ahead on board, because Demon Hunter, especially this double Battle Fiend version, just straight up runs more cheap minions than the Paladin does.
Yes, I mean, I'm more talking about mid-game, because, like, once you hit a certain point, Demon Hunter doesn't want to clear everything off. Like, they don't want to clear every 1-1, every little minion that you get off of the first day at school. And even just one of those sticking could be lights out.
And already just the Divine Shield Murgle is presenting some problems for Alutemu. He doesn't have a clean way of killing it and preserving his Battle Fiend unless he wants to coin the Soul Shear, which I absolutely do not want him to do. So I think it's fine to just Chaos Strike to get the cycle going.
Yeah, I think so too. You are somewhat forced to clear here. Again, you don't want to, but with the threat... Wow, okay, I was going to say, with the threat of all of the buff cards, the Librums, the Hand of Adal, you are kind of forced to clear here, but Alutemu disagrees.
So, going into 3 mana, it is Hand of Adal and the Lightforge Zealot, which Alutemu is somewhat scared of. Against Hand of Adal, if that value trades, then you can still just kill it with the hero power. That does make the curve very awkward. Honestly, no matter what Alutemu did, the next turn would be awkward.
I must have slain 100 or so.
Yikes. 2 mana 2.
Yeah, it's not what you want. We were looking for the goody 2 shields there, I think, to be in a truly good position. But it's still okay for Ryvius. He still, I think, can pull this one back. Even having said that, though, the Lightforge Zealot here is just absolutely awful in response to this board.
It is garbage.
Alright, better. We'll take that.
2 minions.
Demon
and
Hunter's
one of them
weakness.
has Reborn, so it is not the simplest matter for Alutemu to get rid of everything. I don't think it's worth Blade Dancing this.
It's so close for me, because if you don't Blade Dance, like, now you're heading into where all the really scary buffs come down. Like, what do you do if Blessing of Authority hits the board here for a 9-9 on board? Your Blade Dance just... You're going to have to use it anyway, and it doesn't even clear the board here.
It does with Soul Shear hero power.
Okay,
I think this is fine from Alutemu because specifically the 2 minions left on board had 1 health, and he's able to clear off the 9-9 without swinging into it. And the upside is that he now just has the Marrow Slicer equipped.
That's true, and the Blessing of Authority has been used proactively.
Oh wait, sorry, he still does have to swing into it. I did my math wrong. It's 8 with the hero power and Soul Shear. So... I guess you just start with 1 Thief now?
Can you ever just ignore it here? I already really don't want to clear it off. Like, I'm more tempted to go Hero Power, Mana Feeder to try and find some big buff spells for my weapon to go for a massive Blade Dance next turn.
Okay, I'm on board for that. Okay, clearing with the swing. It's worth noting that even if you tank a bunch of damage versus Paladin, they have very little burst to kill you over the top. So as long as you keep the board clean every single turn, the most you have to be worried about is these true silvers from the Light Forge Solid.
Not terrible though here for Alutemu. He can take a setup turn here, I suppose, with getting the Soul Shear down, a couple of 2-drops, and get the Skull ready for next turn.
You don't pick the ones, eh?
Not bad.
You don't pick the ones, eh?
Not bad.
Oh. That is super useful for him to keep in the back pocket. Just the next Blessing of Authority minion, or even something where Ryvius has stacked Librams of Wisdoms.
Yeah.
Just silenced.
Trade Libram Blessing of Kings. It's getting a bit awkward. We probably want to see the Devout Pupil on this turn instead.
Right. Can't quite make use of the discount on it super efficiently, but just the one Libram of Wisdom for a value trade and the Devout Pupil seems like a pretty strong board state.
Yeah, I agree.
The way this has panned out, Ryvius has been playing more towards a board control game plan, which, because Demon Hunter usually wants to send a lot of damage face, you can offset that with the Libram of Hope, but the way that Alutemu specifically has been playing, seems like Ryvius will run out of stuff.
It does seem that way right now, doesn't it? I mean, even then, he's got some really powerful cards here. Like, the Libram of Hope, just that taunt with Divine Shield is so difficult to get through.
So is this worth a Consume Magic? Probably not.
Probably not. I think I'm looking more closely at, like, Soul Shear, Hero Power Blade Dance number 2?
Oh, man, I don't want to Blade Dance this. I was only thinking about Consume because I was thinking Soul Shear Hero Power, like you were saying, and then you have 1 mana left over, and you can just silence the shot bot. But if there is another buff on top of that, then you feel really bad. So it might just be the hold the Consume Magic altogether.
Yeah. Yeah, just attacking in is, I suppose, a middle ground where you hold back on the Blade Dance. It's still likely to be very powerful with double Twin Slice in hand.
If Ryvius commits another buff on... Oh my gosh, and he's forced to, then Alutemu gets the cleanest Consume Magic. He stays ahead on board. And he has a Blade Dance in hand for when the Librams of Hope come online.
Yeah, I mean, if he knew the hand, then he could, of course, go Blessing of Kings on the 1/1. I do think he absolutely makes the correct play here by just going for it on this, the shot bot instead. But it's a huge swing now for Alutemu.
Just a single Shard Shatter Mystic.
Yeah.
And the Mana Feeder. Although, it's worth noting that Alutemu, because he's at exactly 8, can no longer have the liberty of face tanking the next threat, which will be an 8/8. So that's another reason why Ryvius wanted to connect the Blessing of King's face immediately. Oh, having said that though, there's the healing.
Big deal. However, he's going to have a time just getting through these big minions, like even ignoring the health that's gained. These are really tough for Alutemu.
He has double Twin Slice in hand. Maybe the first one is easy and the second one is a bit rough, but I think he's fine.
I guess so. I mean, like, he can get through it, but he has to tank the 8 damage at the same time. And I appreciate that he heals while he does it, but he's not climbing out of range at the same time. Ryvius, with one good draw here, can start to reapply that pressure.
So what are we thinking for good draws? He has High Abyss in hand, so
Yep, any
pretty much
spell.
any cheap spell.
Hand of Adul, I think, would be the dream. Or maybe even, like, First Day of School, just to get it out of deck so it doesn't cast it by accident.
It's a big deal that Alutemu doesn't have mana to develop Gravebound Adept here. cashing in the Blade Dance because it's not
Fair
going to
enough.
get much bigger for the near future.
Yep, I think that's a smart
But
time
he
to go
could
for
have
it.
swung there because of how lifesteal works. You go to 0 and then you go back to 9.
Correct.
Oh,
Ooh, okay.
that's the clear.
That is the clear. He can't quite go double 5-drop here, which is obviously a little annoying.
You could, but then you'd be over-committing damage into
Right,
the
sorry,
8-8.
yes.
Demons.
I think that might be worth. I'm not sure. Also, just trying to free up Skull.
It's interesting.
The alternative, I think, was to go Shard Shatter to clear this off, but because he already played the Lapidary, I think he's all in on the Glaive Bound.
No, I think I like this. I think I'm in the same boat as Alutemu, where I'm staring at this and going, can this possibly be correct? I'm sinking 7 damage in when I could just press hero power, but the 6-4 you get on board, I do think is absolutely worth it. And it just sets you up for, if you have to, Shard Shatter Skull next turn.
It's such a big deal to have minions on board against Paladin.
Yeah.
This entire time, Alutemu has been committing so many resources because he's never had the time to get board presence alongside that. So now he's already investing into the next clear by playing a minion on board.
Ooh.
No spells, but Lady Liadrin.
That is spells. Just
Yeah.
maybe not the way you wanted them.
I
Oh,
don't know. I think you can get away with just Libram of Hope into Libram of Hope into
Yeah.
Libram of Hope.
that's probably just going to be lights out here. Like, unless he can deliver lethal now, there's no way he can do it right. No.
He can look towards getting Kayn in the near future.
Good point. Good point. Okay.
So I'm interested in Shard Shatter Skull. But then you don't immediately get the Marrow Slicer charge too. Oh man.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in like Shard Shatter, Marrow Slicer, face on this turn.
Okay, so you
Just spend
would
all your mana.
connect 16 to the face. You know they have Libram of Hope, so they go back up to 8. They trade down your 6/4, and you have 8 on board. And if you draw Kayn in the next turn, it's lethal?
Yeah, I mean, we can start looking at trading then with the Marrow Slicer. If you know their turn is just going to be Libram of Hope, it might be worth it to
Sure.
protect your board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really good point. Good
Okay.
point. This just does give him more damage across 2 turns if we're thinking of exactly Kayn, and Alutemu needs it.
It does indeed.
In the deck, there's 4 soul fragments in the deck, so only 9 real cards to get through, and he has 4 draws next turn, counting the skull.
So up to 23. He's going to tank 14, 18. Kayn is just lethal if Alutemu can find it straight up.
And it needs to be discounted too.
Warlock.
So no interruptions from the soul fragments. That's
There
the
it is.
one! Woo.
That's going to do it. It was a gorgeous setup for Alutemu. And Ryvius
Yeah.
here, even with, you know, it wasn't the best starting hand for the Paladin. To be fair, he drew none of the Libram cheapeners in his deck. But I thought that just Libram of Hope 4 times would be enough. But it's just too rigid. This is the problem with Paladin. It plays out so just linearly in its game plan, and Demon Hunter can prey on that so heavily.
When you have a deck that's this predictable, it's understandable that the first win you get is because your opponent doesn't really know how to play against it because it's Paladin. But after they've had time to practice against it, test against it, you're right, it is completely exploitable. Fair play to Alutemu for sure. That lethal setup at the end, it took 2 of us thinking together to find the Kayn out, and it was by no means guaranteed, but I think Alutemu gave himself the best shot to close the game before Ryvius could pop off with the next Libram of Hope.
Yep, I think he piloted it very, very well in those late game states, you know, sinking the damage in to maximize his damage output over 2 turns, giving him the highest chance possible of getting the win. I do think that his facial expression, his body language that we saw on cams at the end there is probably going to be indicative of the mood that Alutemu is in. Like, he is a very, very polite, a very, very friendly character here in the 8-pack Hearthstone scene. And I think, despite the fact he's been throwing around some BM with throwing on the shades in previous weeks, giving us all kinds of hand gestures. Not like that, but mostly friendly ones when he's winning games of Hearthstone. I think he appreciates that at this point, going for a braggadocious approach against Ryvius, who's already relegated out, is not the way to go, and we can expect a somewhat more demure victory here from Alutemu.
I learned so many new words from you, Darren. Braggadocious.
I think
Is that
that's
where
the right
word
use
brag
of the
comes
word.
from?
Braggadocio.
Is brag just short for braggadocious?
I think so. I'm going to go with that because it makes me sound more clever. I'm sure there'll be plenty of etymologists in the chat who will call me an absolute moron.
Pretty sure kids growing up these days would just think sus is a real word and it doesn't mean it's not short for suspicious.
I mean,
that's how I understand it.
Braggadocious. Oh well, whatever.
Super
No matter if I'm right or wrong.
Expialidocious.
Yeah, exactly. We are going to be going to a break here as I try to sort out my lexicon. It is going to be the second game coming up. Can Alutemu take the win here and secure his spot outside of automatic relegation? It would be bad news for Kin indeed, but it's going to be great news for Alutemu, who will still be fighting out in 5th or 6th, but a big deal nonetheless. We'll be right back with the rest of this series after this short break. You're watching Alutemu and Ryvius duke it out for Alutemu, trying to secure his spot outside of the bottom two. Once again, sadly for Ryvius, this is just his goodbye match to Grandmasters, with him already being guaranteed, sadly relegated from Grandmasters. But he's going about it in style, still going with this Paladin, I guess, anti-Demon Hunter strategy is still the best theory that we have. It does just, again, seem like a slightly weird way to go about it. But I hope, well, I was going to say I hope that it works out for him. The Demon Hunter has already won, so the deck he was supposedly trying to target is gone. It's looking rough again for Ryvius just after one game.
Yeah, I'm already struggling to think of ways that the Paladin could get through, especially since game 2, it looks like Ryvius has queued it up into Face Hunter, which is an extremely miserable matchup for the Paladin. I think that the only way Paladin can have any shot here is if they have the perfect 1-drop into 2-drop into 3-drop curve. Even 1-drop into buff can often get checked by a single freezing trap.
Yeah, we saw that yesterday. Ryvius got like given the dream Paladin hand. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was done speaking.
Oh, sorry, I think I had some
Did I say something?
audio issue there. With Ryvius, sorry, I'm thrown off. In the testing that we were doing, it did seem like it had to be exactly the insanely powerful curve for Ryvius to have any real chance on the Paladin, which he did get the other day, getting the insane curve against the Weapon Rogue. Even then, did not quite work out for him as he might have intended.
And already having missed out the 1-drop, and Alutemu popping off already with the Intrepid Initiate double Vulpertingers. Ryvius needed some miracles here. These are not the best 1-drops to get, so it looks like he's just going to play Bloodfin Raptor with this Braggart, which is quickly going to get shot away.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not great in terms of taking all this damage. I mean, it does, I think, look like from Ryvius's expression that he kind of anticipates this is already over, to be perfectly honest. Shield Bearer, Hand of Adal, I guess is the best defense he can put up just before it is swiftly kill commanded away.
Very swiftly. I think Alutemu is doing the most gracious thing he can here of trying to end it as quickly as possible. Never mind, he's hesitating. It's always kill command here.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we have to do when Sottle has been playing the bad matchup in testing for about 2 hours. You just be quiet and you win as quick as you can. You don't criticize his plays. You don't talk about how the matchup could have gone better. You just win as quick as you can.
And you can note there from Alutemu that he took a value trade instead of trading in the tour guide, which you are absolutely free to do against this list from Ryvius, which does not have Consecration, does not have Wild Pyro or Librum of Justice. It is straight up trying to get on board, buff the big minions, and go face, but Alutemu will not give him any room to do so.
I guess you're probably okay with delaying Polkelt for a turn, because again, the critical mana to get Dragonbane on, which is the guaranteed card after you play it, is 6, quite obviously, to get the hero power in as well. And so I think you're fairly happy just going for board clear, Neophyte, and carry on with your day.
Yep. Looks great.
I wonder.
So the board clear is trading in the tour guide, hero powering the 4-2, 3-2 into 1-2. Got to push 3 face. It is very, very simple here. This is kind of like just playing in arena. The basics.
Yeah, literally. It's what we came to the conclusion to against Paladin. It turns out that Rusty was right all along. You just AVT and you can't lose.
Oh?
AVT, come on, Alutemu.
He didn't do it. Okay, this leaves... I guess, obviously, the thing he was most scared of landing if he left that up is Blessing of Authority, in which case he's still just kind of ahead, loses a 3-2, and then he just pushes everything else face.
Well, I think that's part of the reason why he didn't trade was that Authority was not playable on that turn because of the Neophyte
the Neophyte
coming down. It would have been Kings, which would have been kind of bad. But even then, I don't hate the trade there in all seriousness at all.
Well, the Authority seems scarier this turn than the Kings was last turn, so
I just
now
wanna
I like the
trade.
trade. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's also Pharaoh's Blessing, right? For
Mhm.
Taunt and Divine Shield. You're praying for a disaster to happen if you don't trade.
Okay, Mummy, Zero Cost Libram of Wisdom, and Devout Pupil.
This
Ryvius
is-
showing signs of life.
It's kind of strong, to be fair, actually, at this point. Like, Dragonbane could obviously be absolutely disastrous if it hits the 5/5 here. But it's not over.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he has, at the very least, Liadrin the next turn for another free blessing of Libram of Wisdom. I mean, it's always happening, right? Wolpertinger in the Divine Shield. Hit the button. There's only really one good outcome here, I would say. But you'll take that one, sort of.
I think you're pretty happy to see that. Just trade now?
Yeah, sometimes your Dragonbane survives.
Yeah, just get the
So-
Taunt out of the way while you can. You don't want Blessing of Authority
Yeah.
on that.
Right? He has to leave it up. We're looking at a 1 in... Okay, doesn't have to leave it up.
Oh, but he's going to. He's just trying to clog up the board with small minions so that it can't go face. I mean, he needs healing in the next few turns or he's just dead
Yeah.
anyway.
It's true. 3 hero powers away or 1 well-aimed Dragonbane. What's it gonna be? You can't clear off anything before hero powering, so it's always just button here.
Well, you can swing in to get rid of the Divine Shield first, right?
Okay, true. And that would still be lethal, because then the Dragonbane would go face.
Yep, half the time it's just lethal here. Oh, okay.
Okay.
We're looking at Libram of Hope. That's what Ryvius needs to try and stabilize here. It's still winnable. It's still technically winnable.
Are there reasons for Alutemu to swing into the 4-5? Yes, which is
Yeah.
Demon Companion into Refa,
Right.
something like that. If anything is getting healed the next turn, it's the face, most likely. But if you take the 4, maybe Ryvius then gets a 2-turn setup with Authority instead.
Okay.
Hero
He
power.
now has information about 2 out of 3 of the secrets. It could be Snipe or Pressure Plate at this point.
Oh man, I thought it was supposed to be Hero Power Authority there, but I guess he didn't want to take the risk with the Blessing of Authority.
So Ryvius has 13 damage on board. He can get up to 15, 17, 18 damage to face next turn. So Blessing of Kings drawn off the top is game.
Uh-huh. Wait, he can't attack immediately
Oh no, wait, it's the
with
Pressure
the
Plate as well.
Authority. Yeah.
No, I was saying, yeah, Hand of Adal, plus,
Oh, and Kings. Yeah.
plus Wisdom, yeah.
So now he has a True Silver,
That's the heal
which
he
heals
needed.
him. Yes. And if you... Wait, if the Pressure Plate misses, is this just lethal? 15, 17... It is, right?
Oh, wait. Oh,
I,
you were supposed to
don't
attack
know-
face with 2 of the minions first, right?
Right, right. And play the Lightforge first, because
Yes,
that one can get hit
yes.
by the Pressure Plate. And that would be 22 exactly if I'm not counting wrong.
You're correct. It was 4 damage off lethal before he drew the Lightforge, so it was 3 out of 4 lethal there for Ryvius.
Yeah. There might be some upsides for not going for the 3 out of 4 lethal, but I'm
He's
struggling
not
to think of
taking
it.
the
And also-
Lightforged?
wait, yeah, he's not taking the heal? I'm confused.
Has he had neutral cards shuffled into his deck?
No?
No, I mean, oh, you hate to say it at this point when it's
Yeah.
already lights out for Ryvius, but that was just a seriously botched final turn. There were chances for lethal, there were chances to stay alive on board, and all of them were missed in the end.
Yeah, it is really rough to see it end that way because you can already tell Ryvius is his heart's not in it at this
Yeah,
point, and you
yeah, yeah,
absolutely cannot blame him, Ryvius, if he had something bigger to play for and was more focused, would absolutely not make a play like that. But it's not just about Ryvius here. This matters for Alutemu too,
Yes,
and
that's the point.
that win for Alutemu is potentially huge because if the Paladin got through, I was suddenly liking Ryvius's chances to win the rest of the series.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I hate to see it play out like that at the end because, we do need players to be playing at the absolute maximum of their ability, even if there's nothing on the line for them, because they are competitors here in Grandmasters. They need to be giving it their all, no matter what, no matter how dire the situation is. Like you said, it's difficult to fight on when, for Ryvius personally, it doesn't mean anything anymore, but still needs to be playing to the best of his ability, which we know from Ryvius in games past, that is not up to scratch in terms of his play.
And so there is going to just potentially one more game on the Paladin. Ryvius is going to queue it up for a third time up against the Rogue from Alutemu. And Alutemu's Rogue is the weapon variant. So without Sap, I actually think that maybe there's more chances for the Paladin to get a win versus this compared to, say, Secret Rogue.
That's fair, for sure. The real problem comes in the fact that Rogue a lot of the time doesn't seem to need the sap because they can just win on board almost all the time. And Ashtung Slayer, I think, goes even further to help that game plan. Because if you're taking VTs with the invulnerability that you give your stealth minions, it becomes very, very difficult indeed for the Paladin to stake anything of impact on the board at all. But having said that, this is a respectable starting hand for Ryvius. He's got the 1-drops with first day of school. Goody 2 shields is an incredibly powerful minion to throw down in the early turns. This could get there.
Okay, disclaimer, there was a pull calc played, so it was guaranteed kill command last game as the next card drawn because the Eagle Horn was played. But I still think he had the 3 and 4 for lethal,
there was still
if
the
not
lethal.
taking the heal. Yeah, so...
That's fair enough, that's fair enough.
Yeah. Definitely are bad. We're going in a little bit too hard. It's tough. We shouldn't be kicking a man when he's down, but to focus on the next game, it's a big deal that Alutemu did not hit the 1-drop. And Ryvius got a premium result from the first day of school.
Yep, he did indeed, getting some pretty good stuff here. Ray of Frost, you are not too sad to see at all here either. Could just be used to keep the board clear on this turn.
So the upsides of going for the Librum of Hope immediately is it discounts the Devout Pupils, which are in the deck. Ray of Frost probably has a bit more utility later on to, say, protect a more threatening minion that Ryvius gets down compared to the Wand Thief, which, with no buffs in hand, didn't really have that much upside for trying to keep it alive.
Yeah, I still kind of like the idea of just sticking it on board and going curving into Goody 2 shields with just something in play, or even coin into the Zealot. Although you have to imagine at this point, it's probably going to be Abbess coin is the plan right now.
Mm-hmm. And for Alutemu, I hate to say it, but I think this is a 3-mana 3/3. He cannot lose board against Paladin. That seems like a recipe for disaster. Okay. Preemptive weapon equipped. It's the same amount of power as a 3/3, to be fair.
Yeah, starts
But
to unlock a lot of the
doesn't-
rest of the deck as well, which you do need to be doing.
Against exactly the 2 shields, though, it's super difficult to answer this.
Interesting, didn't want to take the card draw there either with Spy Mistress Greyheart.
The stealth is a very big deal against Paladin. They don't have a way to interact with it, so you can kind of preload a board clear by playing Lillian. Ooh. no sap in Alutemu's list.
Yeah, exactly. Like we were saying that if you keep the board clear of minions, you don't need the sap. Allura breaks the rules on that one. It just instantly gets the buff, a massive minion down on the board, and it's already looking really bad for Alutemu right out the gate.
It's a pretty decent Krasinov, though. He can get the Dread Corsair for free. But none of the trades work out very nicely. He just doesn't have a good way of proccing the 2 shields, Divine Shield, so I think he was fishing for backstab here, didn't get it. And now he's going to try and go a bit wider.
Yeah, I guess you trade into the 2 shields.
With your weapon? I was thinking maybe Lillian can get a value trade here on the 1-3.
Really?
And then the weapon hits the Divine Shield. But then Lillian can also still get the value trade if you're lucky off the Death Rattle.
Yeah, and I don't know. I want to clear off the goody 2 shields. I don't like the Divine Shield minion. I guess just clearing off the Divine Shield does deal with a lot of the problem already. Fair enough.
Yeah, because of the spell burst having been used. Braggart
Yeah, really, really strong.
can freeze Lillian.
He could even destroy the weapon at the same time while he's at it with
True!
the blood sail.
Oh my goodness! I didn't realize both of his 1-drops were absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
Okay. So Bloodsail Corsair save for the self-sharpening sword or something bigger later. I mean, at this point, the dagger is not threatening whatsoever, so I don't mind leaving it up.
Yeah, literally, this is just repping lethal almost every time on the following turn. Alutemu can hit, obviously, something off Steel Dancer, but more likely trying to find the Dread Corsair just to buy him that one turn, or maybe Jandis.
Yep. Jandis for taunt is where my head is at. Even with the 3 attack buff from the axe, nowhere near clearing either of these minions,
Yeah.
so always Jandis.
What makes something real?
That's not it.
That's a-
The Paladin Gia
Get
finally has won a game here for Ryvius. I'm glad he was able to get it through, even if it doesn't end up going for the reverse sweep on the weapon rogue here. Just because it was an out there bring, Ryvius definitely put his neck on the line with this Paladin. It didn't work out for him in the series that mattered, but maybe he can turn things around now. As you know, I mean, we've already been too harsh on him today with his play on the Paladin at the end of the last game, not having seen the kill command off the top and getting the win there as well. It definitely starts to make this a little bit more amenable for Ryvius.
It truly does, and that honestly changes the shape of the whole series, because I was thinking this Paladin did not have any good matchups after the Demon Hunter got through already from Alutemu. And if we look at the rest of Ryvius's decks, they're just good decks. He has had his Warrior banned away, so now he has Mage and his own Demon Hunter to try and get through. Mage versus Weapon Rogue, though, is not the most palatable proposition from the Mage's side.
Yeah, you don't want to be going into it, but, you know, he's got those techs in his deck, right? He's got the Frostbolt in there for the Mage and the Frozen Shadow Weaver for the Demon Hunter, which is just another slight advantage that he can get over the Weapon Rogue, because if you're just denying one swing with a Self-Sharpening Sword with the Frostbolt or Shadow Weaver, that can be the crucial swing turn you need to turn things around. So I'm not calling it lights out for Ryvius. I hope for his sake that he can get a win on the table here, just to end on a high note in his Grandmasters run. But at the same time, I hope we get a win from Alutemu. I think he deserves to be not auto-relegating as well.
Make up your mind, Derek!
Can't I just bet that all the players will have a good time? That's what I want, yeah.
Maybe if we were playing a different children's card game. Okay, the opener for Alutemu is Fire. Spy Mistress, Greyheart Sage, Self-Sharpening Sword. But the Frozen Shadow Weaver from Ryvius could, you know, wreck a lot of Alutemu's game plan, at least for a turn.
Yeah, I think this is looking pretty decent for Ryvius. He's obviously missing the Soul Shard activator, which is the big fear at the moment for him in terms of his game plan. But as soon as he hits the Soul Fragment Shuffler, I think he'll be in a very, very good spot. And
I think Alutemu's at liberty to send this face. because if you take the trade, you're still scared of Shard Shatter Mystic either way. Oh, sorry, no Fragment in the deck, so actually nothing is even that scary.
Yeah, I think if they want to go for like sinking the hero power into it and then, I don't know, sending the Wand Maker face, you're very happy with that because you just get way more damage through. And this is an incredibly aggressive hand right now for Alutemu, make no mistake.
4 weapons. That's a ton of swings that he has to get through. And Ryvius only has the 2 freezes. So I'm super curious how Ryvius will be timing the Frozen Shadow Weaver. Like, obviously you want to freeze the weapon when it's at a more threatening damage total, but the alternative plays are extremely weak for Ryvius, so it might just be Frozen Shadow Weaver say go.
Unless you want to give, what, Shard Shatter just to be traded away. He's not playing any other Outcast effects, is he? Like the he's playing 1 Spectral Sight, so he could go for the 1 in 3 Spectral Sight, I suppose. But even then, just getting the minion on board I think is probably more important.
The big deal is that he just didn't have a Soul Shear target, which would have made his life easier for the next few turns. And he still doesn't have a Soul Shear target.
Yuck. 5-5? Yeah.
5-5.
Beautiful sheen.
And now
is free to buff up the sword once more.
Yeah, things start unlocking now for Alutemu. It's only a 3-drop off of the Steel Dancer, and I guess maybe you actually delay a turn with Eviscerate available off the Sneaky Delinquent.
It's close, right? Because Steel Dancer Dread Corsair already seems kind of strong, but because it's a 3-drop and your Dread Corsair is a 3-3, you're super scared of Shard Shatter Mystic. So if it's gonna be Evis, is it Sneaky, Evis the 4-3, attack faceplay Dread Corsair? I don't mind that.
I mean, I'm honestly considering if it's just Evis face at this point with the amount of damage you're trying to push forward. Like, if you're afraid of Shard Shatter, you know, the 3-3 does end up dying in the aftermath anyway.
Choose soon.
The Lillian plus Taunt combo at the very least does make Ryvius' life a little bit difficult.
Right.
At least for how he wants to use the Shard Shatter Mystic.
Oh, look at the order as well. Attacking last after he gets the buff from Raid Leader.
Alutemu knows what's up.
Yeah, and I think the conclusion that I was just about to come to, as I'm sure Alutemu had reached like 30 seconds ago, was that if I do want to go Eviscerate face on this line, why am I not just playing the Steel Dancer? Because it's just more stats on board immediately, which I think does make a lot of sense.
So I'm seeing Soul Shear, 4-3 into Steel Dancer, Shard Shatter, but then the Lillian potentially kills off your 5-5 or goes face, and that's all a disaster. It's just that the taunt doesn't allow him to get through the 5-4 unless he commits the Soul Shear, which he would rather use on Lillian.
So if you Soul Shear Lillian, if it hits the 5-5, that's disastrous, right? Because then you can't clear, so that's probably not a valid play.
You can still, but then you lose the 5-5 in the process. I think, on average, I would just go for the play that leaves your 5-5 alive, but leaves their Lillian alive. I don't know. Okay, he's doing the thing you were talking about in a different order, but I think it works out the same on average.
This order is much, much better. He gets the attack in first. He doesn't get any damage to base, but you accept that, you lose the hit, and you're happy about it.
Ryvius is just looking for Aldraki Warblades in the near future, and I guess the somewhat good news for him is Alutemu's damage is not coming down all at once. He has to get through many turns to sink in all of these weapon hits.
Better be something good.
And so he's just going Scimitar because it's more damage to
Oh,
overwrite.
I guess.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's just straight up more damage. Yeah, and you get through it quicker. I'm on board.
Yeah. not often that a hand justifies this type of play, but it's just correct from Alutemu.
Poor warlock.
All right, Warblades is what we're looking for, and Warblades is what Ryvius finds.
Plus
big
Chaos
deal.
Strike.
A Spectral Sight. It's coming together.
Oh, the second Frozen Shadow Weaver.
Ooh.
Ryvius up to 16. Alutemu able to push forward 14 this turn. Oh, no mana to do everything, but you certainly take the draw.
6, 14. Oi, 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 it's close.
Oh,
One off?
one off.
Oh.
Jeez.
There's no way you can cheese out that one extra damage, is there?
Nope. But I think you do cash in the Ash Tongue while you have the stealth minion.
Right.
Ash Tongue, Eviscerate, Dread Corsair.
I agree.
Deal with him.
Oh, do you ever hold the Corsair because you won't necessarily have a combo activator for both of these? Because both the Eviscerate and the Hook Scimitar
That's true.
need combo activators for the next turn.
I mean, you have Sword, right? As long as you're Eviscing on
that's
this
true.
turn.
Yeah, the mana is... it still works out.
Yeah.
Okay, how much can Ryvius heal for? A gazillion.
He's got to be dealing with the board as well, which he
the
has
Shard
active
Shatter.
Shard Shatter. Yep.
And the Shadow Weaver and the heal. He can have all his bases covered here.
He can't fit in every attack buff, so he can only heal for 6 on this turn. But you just take that, right?
That's plenty. You just have
Yeah,
lethal
yeah,
on the
yeah.
next turn.
Yep. I think he's just got everything covered. As long as he clears the board and frees his face, the only damage that can come through then is from
Eviscerate.
the face, which is frozen. Eviscerate is 4, and it's still not quite lethal.
Not enough. So is it some weird Jandis out for Alutemu now? Not even drawn. Hey, we're going to game 5.
He can evis the minion, and he's then still dead. We are going to game 5. He knows he's dead. He has to
Alutemu
evis it.
doesn't know he is dead to the hand from Ryvius.
He knows the second slice is there, right? So as long as he eviscerates the minion, he doesn't necessarily know he's dead, but that is a
Yes.
forced play.
In the most unexpected of fashions, we will be going to a game 5, and while it doesn't necessarily matter for Ryvius, it matters a lot for Alutemu. And because Alutemu is very likely to re-promote if he gets relegated, it matters for the entirety of APAC.
It really does. One less player would be qualifying through to Grandmasters, and it could be a big deal for Kin as well. I think he needs Alutemu to lose this for him to have any real chance. And there it is. This, I think, is we're starting to see probably the thinking for Ryvius coming into this week is because even though he lost to the Demon Hunter right out the gate, which was devastating, he also has a pretty good time, I think I will say, against Bomb Warrior. With the Paladin, the Demon Hunter with the freezes, even the Mage with the Frostbolt is not terrible. And also, he seemingly has a pretty good time against Weapon Rogue as well. Basically, just any class with weapons. He's gone with a very different approach to taking down the weapon classes compared to what we've seen from the players who are going all in on the anti-Bomb Warrior strat, like Alan this week with the sticky fingers that oozes. It's a very unique strategy from Ryvius, but it has a lot of backup plans, I feel like. Even if it doesn't hit the exact target it's trying to hit, it's found a strong second option in targeting the Weapon Rogue instead.
And in terms of lineup theory, I think Ryvius has this knack for developing lineups that, you know, a lot of players in APAC wouldn't necessarily be brave enough to go for. And I
Yeah.
use the word brave in particular because theory doesn't always translate into practice. But Ryvius, at the very least, you can't knock him for innovation because he's just always willing to put himself out there. And the mage, whenever we've seen it, seems like the frostbolts added at the top were not enough to actually turn the unfavorable into a favorable, but he has this one last chance to maybe prove itself against Weapon Rogue.
Yeah, one final shot. All in on this mage, which I've been going back and forth a little bit in my head. I know that you, I believe, seem to be on the weapon rogue side, where you're just putting forward too much damage for the mage to really handle. I do think in my experience playing against weapon rogue, unless they hit a huge amount of damage with the self-sharpening sword, you have a reasonable chance of winning board in the early game. Obviously, Spellwing can be fantastic to snipe off the stealth minions. You can go for your own proactive game plan with surprising efficiency and with surprising speed in the early game. I think it's going to be a really close one, and maybe those frostbolts for Ryvius will be the little bit extra to just inch it into his favor.
Yeah. I do think compared to, say, Demon Hunter, the Frostbolt is a lot more backbreaking for Weapon Rogue because they have to face up, play their weapon, the self-sharpening sword, and wait a couple turns before it reaches max efficiency. So Ryvius is at leisure to time the Frostbolt, whereas for Demon Hunter, they can play a lot of attacking damage from hand, and you don't necessarily know when you need to commit the bolt.
Lab Partner works out pretty nicely here for Ryvius. He could, of course, coin out another one of his one-drops. But this, I think, on average, works out very well, at least before the backstab was found for Alutemu.
It does line up well against the Worgen Infiltrator, but I always keep thinking Spellwing ASAP is good because you want Arcane Missiles ASAP, but the fact is, if Alutemu were to play a minion, Ryvius just doesn't have anything to trade the Spellwing into anyway, so I think it's justified to hold off for a bit.
Yeah, I just really want to hit Cram Session here as well for Ryvius. I think it's so powerful.
Tough one for Alutemu. Is he going to stab this away?
I mean,
I don't think you need to yet.
I don't really think you need to either, but I really thought that this was just backstab dagger on this turn rather than play out the 3-1. Like, I appreciate that you have a bigger minion on board now, but you also don't have a dagger, which I think is very possibly just more valuable, and then you can leave the Worgen stealth. You still get the Greyheart Sage on turn 3. And it would have just worked out in this instance, you know, not trying to be too results oriented, it would have just worked out a bit better for him, I think.
Yeah, against the minion follow-ups, dagger certainly, but if he was expecting Cram Session, then he ends up with more damage on board.
Yes,
it turns out that Ryvius had both options.
I guess so, I guess so.
Uh, 3-1 go fate. Oh man, he has second Greyheart Sage, so I guess he has to keep it stealth again. The problem with that is the Spellwing can just trade into the 3-3, and the 3-1 is likely to die, and in some cases you miss the 3 damage. I think I would send it face here.
I suppose trading into the minion is so bad. The problem is that this hand for me it fights for board for Alutemu. It doesn't go face. True. I think you want to do whatever gets you the most board control. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's disciplined, and I think it's probably correct in this instance.
See your point?
Ooh.
Oh my gosh, this mirror image.
Pretty huge.
Actually, now that we were talking about this is a board hand from Alutemu and not a weapon hand, maybe it's not that big. But, of course, you still take it from Ryvius because he doesn't know that there's no self-sharpening sword.
No, exactly. And even then, it still protects your minions for a little bit, allows you to try and set up for good trades plus Raz on the following turn, which is looking to be devastating for Alutemu.
This is a slow turn for Alutemu, and you're kind of resigned to your 3-1 getting Arcane Missiles away. But it's fine, because he has Jandis and Krastenov in the near future, and the Secret Passage, so he's not necessarily looking to get the Greyheart Sage value soon anyway.
Yep, the one thing you really didn't want to see, though, was Raz Frost Whisper, because Jandis looked like a premium play on turn 5. All of a sudden, it's a turn to ash in his mouth, because this is going to be 2 of the minions instantly dealt with, which I guess leads you to going for, I don't even know, Eviscerate plus Greyheart? Dr. Krastenov? Everything feels bad.
Yeah, it's so gross. There's a play where you eviscerate and hook scimitar and just pre-equip the weapon, you don't develop a board, you damage the Raz a bit, and then you can swing next turn with the Scimitar
Okay.
and end up with a pretty clear board. But you're
Yeah.
praying that they don't have a good minion on the next turn, and we can see it is the exact opposite. Ryvius has Mana Giant.
Yeah, you can attack into the 0-1 equipped hook scimitar. I agree. I think this is the best line. Jandis is just too weak to go for here.
Oh man, Ryvius is on the brink of pulling off a reverse sweep, but we shall see. Jandis can make some miracles happen.
The question, of course, being, does he want to go for Mana Giant plus Conjurer's Calling on the same turn? I think you just drop the Mana Giant here. You have 2 must-kill minions.
Yeah. It's super difficult for Alutemu to kill the giant at all. Oh, he's punching
Wow.
the rat? I don't like that.
I think I just like Mana Giant. It's an 8A
Me
on
too.
board. Yeah.
Alright. So powerful. Wait. Man, he would be 1 mana short of clearing everything
Yeah.
with the Krastenov, but just gonna pray that the conj isn't there, I suppose.
Those aren't
Pretty
very
bad
good.
results too, yeah. Ryvius has the value trade into conj, into missiles for a full clear most likely. Or you can go about it this way, yep.
Even better, like just clear off the minions guaranteed.
Yeah.
Huge minion on board. Octasari? I guess that's insane, right?
Yeah. Passage.
Yeah, it's that or Krastenov Eviscerate to clear off the Octasari on this board. Which you have to look at, right? It feels beyond dreadful.
I think every line loses. Maybe that line loses just that little bit faster.
Right. Good hand, I suppose, in a normal style of game, but this is not a normal kind of game at this point already.
No, not by any stretch.
And plunder.
A lot of development into missiles. That he-
Yep.
Oh no, yeah, he knows this one to be in hand as well. Pretty disastrous. But what choice do you have?
None at all. I suppose you just hold the weapon at this point because you have Krastenov in the other hand.
I guess if you backstab and kill off the Croc, though, he can't get Croc and the Octasari on board after he conjures the
Okay.
Croc.
Okay, so the play is hope that the Octasari conjures are terrible.
Right,
I can get
yeah.
behind that.
Maybe it's, I don't even know, 2 8-1s is the best you can maybe look at.
It's 2 more Octasaris, and Alutemu wins
Ah.
off fatigue. That's it.
I like your thinking.
Just drops another Mana Giant. Or Conjur's Calling. Take your pick, honestly. No Jandis as an out. Steel Dancer not drawn, not that he had a big weapon anyway.
A cruel fate awaits you in the
Oh, he's just
afterlife.
got to dig. I think this might be the end of the road for Alutemu.
It
He was
is.
2-0 up, looking
Deal
in
with
such a good position. He can stay alive on board, I suppose.
Yeah, just barely.
Ho in the shadows.
Okay,
If he
okay.
goes
I
down-
respect his willingness to stick it through.
My hand is full.
There's
That's
the
gonna do it,
Frostbolt
though.
for lethal!
Oh, the perfect end for Ryvius here. The decked in Frostbolt being main decked here is what is going to give him the win up against Alutemu. He did it! He waves his goodbye. Ryvius, you've done us all proud. You've won your final series here in GM, and you can hold your head high.
I feel like crying, Dara. It's so bittersweet.
Yeah,
The
I'm
wave.
right there with you, Gia. It's a sad way for Ryvius to go out. Indeed, he's been such a mainstay of Grandmasters here right from the get-go. We've loved his innovation, we've loved his play, we've loved the personality that he brings as well. But at the end of the day, Alutemu does end up losing. Ryvius gets the final win, and it's scary once again for Alutemu in terms of being relegated.
It's true. He now goes down to 2 and 6. Kin currently has the opportunity to go to a better score, I believe, or at least tie Alutemu, and then we would have to dig into the tiebreakers a little bit. But for Alutemu fans, shouldn't fear too much, even if Alutemu does get relegated. We kept on talking about how his great performance at MT APAC Online means that he is extremely likely to re-promote straight through.
Yeah, that's right. If it ends up with Kin winning, it means he will go up to 3 and 4, while Alutemu stays at 2 and 5, which would be straight up Alutemu relegated. Kin goes up to the higher spot there and can kind of start duking it out with the players just ever so slightly above him. If Kin loses that match, though, that's when things get a bit more complicated. We end up in a 3-way tie, and I believe Alutemu does end up being the victor in that 3-way tie because of the tiebreakers. So Kin, I believe tomorrow, still does have to win his match in order to avoid relegation. But we'll get into that a little bit closer when things get down to it. Well done, Ryvius, in your final series here. A strong win indeed, going over to the